Hello. This is not one of my usual Dota videos. This is a travel video, kind of, in case you're ever thinking about traveling overseas to the country of Belize. It's a small country in Central America. It's tucked up against Mexico and Guatemala, and I believe Honduras, or maybe El Salvador on the southern side. But it's a pretty small country. I think it's maybe 400 miles long. It seemed to take maybe 12 hours or 18 hours to get across it, just north to south, but then only about maybe 2 hours east to west before you hit the borders. It's kind of a small mountain country. There's a little bit of beach all the way along the side, but there's like a huge barrier reef, essentially, that's alive, and it's a national monument. It's kind of protected, but you can go scuba dive and take a look at all the fish and shark and coral and such. We didn't get to do that. What I experienced in Belize is sort of more of, hey, if you're disabled, these are things you might want to know. So we started out flying down, which is always tricky. We managed to get my wheelchair, sorted out through the airport. There's a little Southwest Airlines form you can fill out that will track like the basic details of your chair to help them fill out a little tag that they're going to put on it. But that'll essentially help you sometimes get a text message from the baggage claim whenever they put it under the plane, which is good to know where it is. And then sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. Then when we got down to Belize, they were very lackadaisical about my wheelchair checking me at all. I don't think they even patted me down as I left the country. They just gave a look at my cup holder and said, "Yeah, it looks good." Away we went. So the country is pretty friendly on the way in. We did a lot of shuttles because we didn't really know how to travel via taxi or bus with my wheelchair and our baggage and things like that. So we tried to use like WhatsApp to communicate with drivers that were usually pretty easy to find. I feel like we searched a lot of Google searches and found websites, and a lot of people run their own personal pages for tourism and easy tours. So I think some woman picked us up at the airport, brought us to the dock, which is down in Belize City, and then we took a little ferry basically for an hour and a half across the water into San Pedro Island, where our first hotel was, the Watermark Belize. And as we got off the ferry, we managed to get safely around, and it was a very rocky, windy, sunny ride over there. So I would definitely recommend bringing some food or some water wherever you go. We basically had bottled water everywhere just because we assumed we wouldn't be used to the normal water that they have. So we tried to accommodate that, and we probably drank like 2 gallons or more a day. Probably more than that, if I remember right. I think it was close to 5 at the last day. We started carrying jugs around, and then they actually started to be drank all the way through. But it's a very hot country, very tropical. It was like 85 the whole time we were there. At night, it gets down to maybe 75. It was rarely cool. So we luckily had air conditioning in most of these locations, but at the Watermark Belize, when we got there, there was sort of a small ramp situation where you have to like kind of go in a weird curlicue to get into the building. And then once we got in there, there's an elevator, but it doesn't always work because sometimes there's blackouts. So that wasn't great. So as we got there at like, I don't know, after flying for 12 hours through the 2 in the morning and all the way down to Belize, we somehow got there as there was a blackout happening. So that was not great. So we basically had to mill around the area for, I don't know, 2, 3 hours. We tried to roll around. We got to leave our baggage behind, but there was not really power on the island, so there wasn't really anywhere else you could eat, really. I think we eventually found somewhere that was open as a part of another resort that had maybe a generator or something, but it wasn't the best. A lot of the food options on the island are pretty weird, resorty, not super tasty. I didn't really care for it. It was really windy on the island as well, so you gotta look out for that. It's just blowing constantly, and there's like a sort of, I think the word for it is a sargasso. There's like a type of buildup happening out in the sea that's just like nonstop smell happening of gross seaweed and just piles of it accumulate on the shore. It's not super fun. I believe we're supposed to go to a different island that's a little better to swim around because it doesn't have as much buildup. So I would recommend that over San Pedro. The Watermark Belize we eventually went back to. They still didn't have a room open that I could get to, but they did have a room on the third floor, so I essentially left my wheelchair behind and held on to the rail and pulled myself up the stairs for 3 stairs and got to use my chair at the top. Some guy was trying to, maintenance or janitorial staff perhaps, was helping, trying to hold on to my hip so I wouldn't fall over. Because it's a very long trek. Yeah, I don't know what they would have done if I had a power chair or couldn't walk as much as I can. I can just kind of hobble places sometimes, but it's really painful. So we got into the room at least. There was some air conditioning. I think we got to relax for an hour or two until they actually got a room available as the power came back on. And then we could take the elevator up to our room, and that was good. There was a rooftop pool that was pretty nice, but in general, the food very okay. Really expensive, all things considered. We ordered some sort of cup of coffee the last day we were there because we were just desperate for anything in the morning. Because the local grocery stores have like no milk or creamer because it's so hot out, and my partner was just losing her mind. So she ended up getting like a $45 cup of coffee delivered to the room just because we didn't know how much it was going to add up to. It was ridiculous. The exchange rate in Belize is really easy with American money, but it's just one to two situation. But if you're in the Watermark Belize Hotel, just hope they have power. The customer service is just fine. They're really friendly. They got helpful, like they'll bring everything to your room if need be. They'll take your plates away. You can go eat up on the roof. I mean, we smoked up on the roof and they didn't mind, so they're very accommodating in that way. They kind of can't do anything about blackouts. It's not really their problem. But it is what it is. If you're going to that part of the island, watch out. There's literally little gutters everywhere because it floods so much on the island of San Pedro. So there's like little, I'd say 6-inch long gutters that go across the street, and you have to sort of hop those on your wheelchair. So it's very difficult if you have smaller wheels or that sort of thing. Crutches especially. You could definitely fall into one of those and have some trouble. But yeah, the island, very nice people, very nice atmosphere, but the smell, the wind, the heat, not super great. Even hanging out on top of the hotel, it wasn't super great because it's so windy all the time that it's actually kind of hard to even be in the sun because then it's also hot. So it's just a combination of problems. We came in the middle of the end of June, so that wasn't a great time. It's sort of the rainy season, the off season. They didn't have as much fish and lobster available, that sort of thing. So be aware of when you're going to Belize so that you don't get a bunch of things that you can't get anymore because they're in off season, turns out. Anyway, eventually we got out of there. It was safe enough. We lost most of our cash in the process of trying to get more things to eat. I think I ended up eating like a microwaved White Castle burger or something by the last day. It was rough. Something we could find at the 7-Eleven. But I had almost no appetite at the time, so it was very difficult to kind of get used to that. As we were both detoxing, so to speak, it was very difficult for me to have an appetite, and we were mostly just smoking a lot of cigarettes on the porch and putting our butts away and throwing them away later, trying to stay hydrated. When we went inland to the Black Orchid Resort, we took another shuttle over to the ferry over to the mainland, and then from the mainland we caught a ride with someone who had taken us before from the airport, and she drove us up to the Black Orchid Resort. Very nice woman, showed us around. I believe she was maybe from Guatemala, actually. But in any case, each driver had their own little story. They were variantly, I'd say 40% to 80% fluent in English usually. uh, it's always kind of a mixed bag, but they're usually, they can answer whatever questions you have. They're usually pretty good at tourism, whatever those kinds of questions you might need. As we went to the Black Orchid Resort, it was a lot more jungly in the inland area. There's the Belize River right next to it. There's an excellent restaurant. We ate there for breakfast, lunch, dinner, every time we could. Uh, Breakfast was really good. The Belize breakfast is delicious. It usually comes with like fruit, a little bit of cheese, and this fry bread stuff that's like really good, fluffy bread that's been kind of deep fried. It's delicious and flaky. You can kind of dip it in your beans and eat it with your eggs. It's pretty good. There's always fruit in every dish, generally just on the side, or just something for the accent of being in the jungle. As we were at the Black Orchid Resort, there was just mangoes everywhere, just all over the ground, just littering the place because they were just growing so abundantly. And there's mostly iguanas at the resort, just wandering around nibbling on things. There's a lot of cobblestone, which is not super great for wheelchairs. It's really uneven, like kind of wide stones just kind of placed, and then there's a little space in between each one for concrete, but it's not like great. It was very rickety, very weird. So it felt difficult to get out of the resort. They had a nice ramped, accessible room. The stall in the shower was not great. We could probably need more of a bench situation for most people. I don't think I could even get my wheelchair like through the shower situation because it was kind of just a standing shower, but you can kind of hold on to the railings and make it work. It's not great, but it rarely is if you're moving around in accessible situations like that. But nice thing about this resort is their howler monkeys live in the trees right around the resort. There's a small fence that technically separates them from the resort, but there's like two or three troops of families, little baby ones, full grown adults, hanging out in the trees while you hang out in the pool and relax with a margarita or whatever. They bring your alcohol right to you. There's a little bar by the pool that'll serve you throughout the day. I had Belize beer constantly whenever I could because it was pretty reliable. Is what I would call it. It looks a little bit like this, but yeah, it was super good. Nice little drinkable beer when it's 85 degrees, so it's only like 4 or 5 ABV. Not super liquor inducing or anything. It's not going to knock you out. So it's very small, easy to drink. Kind of reminded me a little of a fat tire of old, if you will. But yeah, Black Orchid Resort, very nice for customer service. They even did our laundry there and brought it back the same day, I think. Um, all the waiters were awesome. They always made like really good drinks and brought us food. And we had like a coconut fish curry there that was super tasty. It was probably the tastiest fish I've ever had. And I think I even had a steak there that was like marinated in such a way that I'd never had before. It was like it was punctured a bunch and filled full of some sort of odd curried sauce. I don't know. It was pretty interesting. I think everything uses coconut milk down there because there's coconuts kind of everywhere. So if you're in the area, I think it's got a very unusual name in the city where Black Orchid Resort is. There's a nice iguana kind of area, nice river tours. You can pay for all sorts of that stuff. We mostly just hung around the hotel, hooked up our Disney Plus and watched whatever we could, and then tried to stay hydrated. Got some nice people walking around, observed the monkeys. We got some excellent bug repellent from the lady at the front area who they sell their own like natural remedies there. Would recommend. I get really bad mosquito bites, so my head was blowing up, covered in mosquito bites. But we put this stuff on it, makes it go down. I look like a normal human being again. So would recommend that place. It's got everything you need. I mean, really great food. So if you're into that and paying for a little more, you can go on a river tour and do some other extravagant stuff. They're pretty accommodating people, so I like that place a lot. We only stayed there for 2 nights, and we went on to deeper into the country, heading west. And eventually, we reached, I think it's San Ignacio is the name of it. That sounds right. The city nearby, which is where Crystal Paradise Resort is, which doesn't have a pool, as we learned, but does have a great kitchen slash cook situation. There's a woman there who runs the place who I believe is a native Belizean, perhaps. I don't know the exact terminology. I think some of them are Mayan. There was some people using the phrases of which culture they were also from down there. But she made some excellent food. We had a room with a big step in it, and there was a very steep area to get to on my wheelchair. So getting around the resort was pretty impossible for me. I think my partner walked from our room to the bar area where you can basically honor system write down how many beers you took, and they'll check you out at the end and get coffee over there and that sort of thing. Mixed drinks, water, sodas. But from our room over to that area, there was at least 12 to 15 steps, I think she counted. She took a video that I don't have at this time, but it was pretty ridiculous. I basically just moved my chair when I could, but it was fine. The weather was fine. They did bring every meal, like breakfast and dinner, to our little patio. So that was pretty amazing. And she was like hand cooking these meals. There wasn't a lot of other people at the resort. And she made these great tostadas in the morning. And she like will handle your dietary requirements. Like I can't have cheese. My partner can't have cilantro. So she just like leaves them off for you. Makes a salsa or some variety therein. Made a delicious fish dish. We just kind of waited to see what came. We didn't really have to order anything. We just told her what we can't eat, and she brought something. She also made some delicious zucchini bread there at the end. Great homemade food. Stay for the food, definitely. There's supposed to be birding tours and the ability to walk down to the river. It was super far. My partner couldn't quite even get to the river, so it's very far down the mountain. But there is some easily accessible rivers back in the main town of San Ignacio. We kind of drove through it once or twice, but we didn't really stop to look around. It looked very hilly, very, very steep. But there is some walking tour areas. There's like a small iguana preserve over there, like a wildlife sanctuary, as well as like some native grown coffee situation. That's quite delicious, I've heard, but we didn't get down to it. We mostly, the last day from the Crystal Paradise Resort, went over to the zoo. And at the zoo was pretty good. We spent some time over there. I'll bring up this. This is the Crystal Paradise Resort. They've got little horses that live on the place. This is kind of the ramp made of wood and concrete, and then this is just gravel and dirt going up the road here. So you kind of have to imagine that being a bit difficult to deal with. And there's some iguanas that you see at the resort. We got some jaguars that we saw the last day, some ocelots at the zoo. There's a lot of howler monkeys as well, little tapirs. The national animal of Belize. We got some great ornamentation, gift shop stuff that was of tapirs, like little wooden sets of things. There's this huge bamboo tree at the Crystal Paradise Resort, pretty enormous. Pretty interesting stuff at the zoo. I'd say it was probably the most mosquito-y place we had went to, but that's okay. It was fine as far as zoos go. I think our trip over there, we tried 5 different drivers and eventually found one guy who came over to get his van and his child, because he brought his teenage boy with him who spoke more English than he did and kind of translated for him. So that was nice. And we talked to them about a lot of things. They were very accommodating. They drove us kind of to bathrooms and pulled off where we needed to go. When we got to the zoo, they let us just roll around for practically an hour and waited in the parking lot for us to be done. They got something to eat. We got some more gift shop stuff. Little howler monkeys here. They're pretty loud. That is the downside of that resort. There's some little gray wolf here. Just some other cute animals from the Belize Zoo. Not the best video, so we'll just have these little things here. And this is just a ride in one of our many shuttles, essentially. So there's that. But it's all just kind of zooming around shuttle to shuttle, looking at different areas, enjoying Belize. Mostly, if you're going to Belize, you're going to need a shuttle if you're in a wheelchair, I think. But they're pretty accommodating. I think we got from our place in Crystal Paradise, which is about 90 minutes away, to the zoo, maybe. maybe a little less. But I think we got all the way over there and back for probably less than 120 bucks. It was maybe 80 bucks. I feel like we got some good quote for the day, but I think we tried to tip them some extra amount from the ATM. But you can use the ATMs down there real safely. There's a lot of police and military checkpoints here and there if you're driving your own car. Usually you can take the buses for I think about $5 a day. They all look like old American school buses, but they didn't look super great for me wheeling around, so we just kind of kept trying to use shuttles as best we could. And for the day, I think it's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's a good price. I'd probably do that part again during a different time of the year. Definitely want to check out more of the beach area. There's supposed to be some odd parasites here and there, so we got some odd bites, these little sand fly kind of things. You have to be kind of careful of that, I guess, around the ocean. Be aware. Uh, Overall, I mean, I know I mentioned a lot of bad things here and there, but that's just my personality. I think I saw one other person in a wheelchair while I was there as I drove around in shuttles and walked around and tried to see stuff where I could. And there was a lot of golf carts in the first island, but I wouldn't say like we felt the need to use them or that we had the extra money for it. We did the majority of this trip for, less than $1,000. Like, I think our tickets were probably that amount, and then, like, the amount we spent down there was probably close to that. Who knows? It all adds up to something, but I didn't write it all down because that's not what this is about. This is just more about, hey, how was the trip from these three locations? What did we see? How did we get around? And if you're doing it yourself, these might be helpful to you traveling to Belize because it's a pretty fun place to visit. Would recommend. Yeah.